evidence-based model that is set around six skills, six wellness skills that bring a sense of well-being to mind, body, and spirit. This is a model that is named Community Resiliency Model for a reason. It's designed to be shared with natural leaders in the community, with the community at large. It's something that anyone can use. It's adaptable. It's really designed to be accessible for everyone. And because it's body based, you know that it is applicable to everybody. We all have a nervous system. So, regardless of age or culture or background, this model is something that can be used by anyone. It's a zone of well being. I like to call it also that okay zone. The resilient zone is just that place where you feel like you can manage the stresses of daily life. You can be okay, but still feel some anger. You can be okay, but still feel some sadness. It's definitely not your happy place. The resilient zone is just where you know that you can be your best self despite what's going on around you, despite the stressors that you might be experiencing. And it's also a place where your nervous system is not activated to the point where it needs to put you into survival mode. Um, there's this beautiful balance when you're in your resilient zone of charge and release, where you get that bit of energy when you need to respond to something. And then you get that little bit of relaxation when you feel like things have been handled. It's not that place where you are even keel all the time. It is really just the human capacity to go through that charge and release in a healthy way. I use community resiliency model skills on a regular basis from moment to moment. Tracking, the skill of tracking, since it's foundational to the model, that is what I go to the most. I like to make sure that I pay attention to surfaces around me, especially when I'm at my desk. Um, just paying attention to the coolness of my desk, even rubbing material from my shirt. This is a great tool, by the way, because of this sash. I just rub along the seam. I notice when I feel accomplished or get something done on my checklist, how that feels inside. I check in with that physical sensation that's pleasant for me. So, on a regular basis, from getting up in the morning to laying my head down at night, I am tracking one way or the other throughout my day. It's made an incredible difference. One thing about using the community resiliency model skills is it's given me the opportunity to actually think about why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. It's given me the opportunity to think about why I'm thinking the way that I'm thinking. Um, the neuroscience behind it is what's most intriguing to me. And so I've pursued that in graduate study. And just knowing that the way that I feel physically in a moment is not necessarily my entire experience, right? So if I'm feeling a level of stress, and I feel that fatigue or I feel frustration or I feel like I have a lower tolerance for um, interacting with people. To me, those are all just indicators that I am bumped out of my zone or I'm getting close to that place. And so I take that information, I take that data, and I evaluate what I can do differently. And I would not have been able to use that lens to assess how I feel inside or how I was not being my best self if I did not know the community resiliency model. It really gives you just a space of choice that you wouldn't necessarily have had from the beginning if you didn't know these skills. So this crim education has really changed how I do life. And even though it sounds a little bit hyperbolic, it because it's changed how I do life, it has changed my life in a very positive way. The science bears out. This has been a model that has been used with first responders and nurses, law enforcement, educators, just the community at large with great success of people reporting back that they had noticed increased wellness or a felt sense of wellness from using the model. And so I feel like that corroborates everything that I've found to be true in my own personal practice of the model. Well, for reset now or help now strategies, I lead with that often when I teach that to various groups. I lead with the example of being in a meeting and somebody saying something that doesn't sit well with you and how that might feel. Sometimes you might get tightness in your jaw. Your body is going to send signals that you're out of your zone, like completely out of your zone. And so, using the help now strategy of taking a sip is one of those accessible things that people, I'm sitting in a meeting, I'll likely have coffee or a bottle of water with me. And so I intentionally find that cup of water or that cup of coffee and take a sip and notice how my body feels as I sip from the time it touches my lips all the way down to my stomach. For me, I always take a deep breath after that, and I'm able to engage instead of react with what maybe I've heard that has activated me to begin with. So these skills and those help now strategies specifically are really accessible. You can use them at any time. So that is my key example, my lived experience of using those help now skills. We can recognize when we're not in our resilient zone. We can recognize when we are not in that state of balance in mind, body, and spirit, generally by our behaviors. Maybe we notice that we are short with the people around us. Maybe we notice that we feel extreme fatigue, or we might feel a little bit of sadness, or even have some depression. We might notice that we're having angry outbursts. When we notice these things, we can be sure that we are not in our resilient zone. And when we get to those places, we call that being bumped out. So that's that common language that we also get from the community resiliency model, developing a language around our own resilience and being bumped out of our resilient zone. When we're bumped out, that is part of our human experience. It's okay. We should get bumped out if there's a crisis or if there's injustice. Our bodies are designed to help us survive those instances. But where it can be really problematic is getting stuck outside of our resilient zone, stuck in a high zone, which looks like those angry outbursts, or stuck in our low zone, which might look like that numbness or exhaustion or depression. And staying there changes all of the systems of our body. You know, it wears on our physiology. So when we talk about learning these skills, we are actually giving ourselves the capacity to heal, to connect, and to learn. We do that in our resilience zone. We can heal, connect, and learn. We cannot do that when we're bumped out. So, even though being bumped out is part of our experience and it's okay, we don't want to stay in those places. We do want to return to our resilience zone.